very good evening to you and thanks for joining us on ITV Calendar.
Hello, here are Wednesday night's main stories.
This is actually, it's taking us back to day one.
Why the tragic disappearance of Jay Slater brought fresh heartache for a family from Wakefield.
There's just so many unanswered questions and they always just run round and round and round and it never goes away.
Kevin Ainley vanished from the same Spanish island almost 2 decades ago. Also on calendar.
After the pageantry in Parliament this afternoon. We've details of what was in the King's speech and reaction to it as voters spill the beans in Sheffield.
I'm at Kilmarsh Dynamos in North East Derbyshire for a very special homecoming for one of those lionesses.
And summer makes a return over the next few days. Temperatures are on the up. If you don't like it too hot, you've just got to get through Friday and it will be cooling down again into the weekend and beyond. All the details, weather-wise, coming up.
So first tonight to a Wakefield family's agonising wait for answers 20 years on from a disappearance in Tenerife.
Kevin Ainley had been working in a bar at a popular resort when he went missing in 2004. Now, there was no major search for him at the time by the Spanish police.
His mother and sister say the tragic disappearance of Jay Slater, whose body was discovered this week after a month-long search on the same island, has brought painful memories flooding back. They've been talking exclusively to our reporter, Mel Barham.
In my mind, he's 24.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine him any other way. What would he look like?
It was 2004 when Kevin Ainley disappeared from the holiday resort of Playa de las Americas in Tenerife.
Well, I think the first thing I said is, what do you mean he's missing? You know, like you do. And sort of, obviously it flashes in your mind that he hadn't spoke to me for a few weeks. And then it just, like a panic. I said, what do you mean? Kevin is a funny lad. He's the life and soul of the parties.
And he loves being like the centre of attention.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
that sort of person, which is why you were a promoter at the bars. He used to get them all in.
He'd gone out to Tenerife 3 months earlier and had been working in a bar called The Sportsman. His family say they've since learnt he'd got into an altercation the night before he went missing with 2 British men who were also working in the same bar.
We believe one of them had pulled a weapon on Kevin. The next day, he was asked to go and resolve this dispute with these men. Kevin went and was seen heading towards the Sportsman bar, and that's the last time he was seen.
That was 20 years ago, and for his family, the lack of answers has been crippling.
There's been nothing, no sightings, and everything he owned were left in his apartment. You know, there's just so many unanswered questions, and they always just run round and round and round, and it never goes away.
Their story has haunting echoes of the disappearance of Jay Slater. Kevin had been in the same resort that Jay had partied the night before he went missing, almost 20 years to the day, a coincidence that's been incredibly painful for Kevin's family.
This is actually, it's taking us back to day one.
We just know how his family must be feeling right now, and there's no words to describe it. You know, the worry and the panic that you feel, and like I said, you feel helpless. It's an awful thing to go through. I don't want to wish on anybody.
But whereas Jay's disappearance sparked huge public interest and a mass search, there was nothing like that for Kevin.
We didn't get any of that, you know, pushing us to do things or helping us to do things.
We didn't get any support from anybody, did we?
No.
We were just... It's like they didn't really want to look into it.
In fact, it was 18 months before police in Tenerife allowed detectives from the UK to come over, and even then, officers were given just 48 hours to investigate.
It's disgraceful, really. I wouldn't say they did investigate. They didn't investigate it. They just kind of didn't want anything to do with it.
Carpet, we think.
They didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want police going out there asking questions. They didn't want us going out there asking questions. And then the longer the time goes on, the worse it gets.
With a light finally being shone on Kevin's story, his family feel this may be their last shot at getting answers.
You know, people grow up and you just hope that in somewhere somebody has that thing to say. I have to say something. There's no closure, there's no peace. It's torture. I won't wish on anybody.
For Jay Slater's family, there are now at least some answers. But for Kevin's, 20 years on, they are still in limbo. And there will always be a part of their family missing. Mel Barham, ITV News, Wakefield.
A mother from Barnsley has been sentenced to an indefinite hospital order after killing her 5-month-old baby just days before Christmas. Hayley McFarlane called emergency services after smothering her daughter at Woodhouse Moor Park in Leeds last December. The 39-year-old admitted the charge of infanticide. Sheffield Crown Court heard she was suffering from a rare condition called postpartum psychosis and severe depression at the time of the tragedy. House building, workers' rights and renationalising railways, just some of the Labour Party's 40 new planned laws that were revealed in the King's speech amid a raft of pomp and ceremony in Parliament today. Well, we'll find out what it all means for our region with our political correspondent Charanpreet Kera at Westminster in just a moment. First, though, Laura's been looking at some of the headlines to come out of the King's speech.
Yes, Ian, the Prime Minister says that the King's speech is about national renewal. The new Planning and Infrastructure Bill aims to speed up house building whilst no-fault evictions will end. Now, train operators will come back into public ownership and the Better Buses Bill will allow local leaders to take control of their services. A new Council of the Nations and Regions will be created and new powers will be given to metro mayors and combined authorities in England. Elsewhere, there's a new Industrial Strategy Council, which is tasked with increasing living standards. A new Border Security Command will tackle immigration, and there are new bills on employment rights. There's a football governance bill, plus new limits on the sale and marketing of vapes, and the VAT exemption for private schools will end with the aim of funding 6,500 new teachers.
So let's cross to Westminster and our political correspondent Charanpreet Kera as promised. And Charanpreet, that was some of the detail. What's been the reception?
Well, Ian, the King's speech, or previously the Queen's speech, might happen every year, but it's worth remembering that this is the first time in 14 years that it's happened under a Labour government. So as well as the normal pomp and ceremony that comes with the state opening of Parliament, today had a tone of celebration too. A lot of what we heard from Lara just there was already expected. We knew it was going to happen from the manifesto, but nevertheless, some of the optimism from the huge Labour win in the election seems to have persisted for the party.
A parade of red and gold to mark the changing of the guard. A new parliament with a new Labour government.
My government believes that greater devolution of decision-making is at the heart of a modern dynamic economy.
King Charles set out 40 new bills intended to improve lives and unlock growth.
Lots to do. Wow.
By when?
Watching in Sheffield, coffee roaster Fraser Habershon was impressed by the scale, but keen for specifics.
Let's see what they come out with. Yeah, obviously they're not going to go through detail exactly what that's going to look like, but I think the average person of having, you know, their bills tightened up and then obviously all the home things, that spending gets tightened up and it affects small SME businesses like us. So we need to protect it. So if they're addressing it and there's going to be good procedure and policies put in place, I'm all for it. That'd be grand.
Grand ambitions too for green energy, with a pledge to invest £8.3 billion in cheap, clean power. For Lindy Stone, that's a big win.
Really pleased to see particularly the Great British Energy Bill is going to come forward. It's been much talked about and it's very much both an economic positive and also an environment positive as well. The fact that it's been brought into the first King's speech for this new government is really, really positive.
From Great British Energy to Great British Rail, the speech confirmed that HS2 will not be revived, but promised to transform rail connectivity across the north and improve bus services with greater devolution.
We look down the road to Nottingham and we see an excellent public transport service run by Nottingham City Council, and we could be doing the same in the boroughs of South Yorkshire. And with the Mayor, the government, the City and Borough Councils pulling in the same direction, I think there's a real hope for bus improvement, but it must be properly funded.
But funding devolution will be difficult, with the new government hemmed in by strict fiscal rules.
there's a lot in there, and I'll particularly mention the powers around devolution. I think that's going to be really important for our mayors and our local authorities.
But without extra money to invest in these projects, is it more of a wish list?
No, I don't think so. And let's not forget, for a long time, decisions have been made in Westminster. They don't always understand what's really important.
But decisions will still need to be made in Westminster before these bills can become law. It was happy families amid today's festivities, but Richmond and Northallerton MP Rishi Sunak was quick to remind Labour that his role as leader of the opposition begins now.
On this side of the House, will hold them accountable for delivering on the commitments that they made to the British people. In the national interest, we will not oppose for the sake of it, but when we disagree with the government, it is our responsibility as the opposition to say so.
We'll be there holding their feet to the fire on issues where it matters most to our local constituents. We'll have more say in the chamber than ever before, more impact and clout when it comes to debates, when it comes to select committees, and we'll have 2 guaranteed PMQs every week.
After a tense election, there may be no love lost between Keir Starmer and his opponents. But with Labour's hefty majority in this new parliament, they'll be hoping it's full steam ahead with their programme for change.
Yes, they most certainly will. Well, just finally, Sharon Preet, what are the potential pitfalls for the new Labour government?
Well, Ian, already some of the proposals that you heard in my report there have raised eyebrows. Now, when it comes to green energy, Labour's already said that it intends to drop the ban on onshore wind that the previous government imposed. But local campaigners have written to the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, saying that they would oppose plans for a wind farm near Hebden Bridge on Upper Calderdale. And that sort of not in my backyard sentiment could certainly apply to Labour's ambitious house building programme too. Now, the debate over all the bills contained in the King's speech begins today. It will go on for about 5 or 6 days, and the flavour of that debate will set the tone really for the rest of this new Parliament.
Sharon Preet at Westminster, thank you. Parking charges are to be introduced at several beauty spots in Leeds to fund improvements to the city's parks, despite public's opposition to the plans. Visitors to Otley Shevin, Golden Acre Park and Temple Newsome, as well as Roundhay Park and Middleton Park Bike Hub, will be charged £1 for a 2-hour stay and £4 to park all day. A council spokesperson said the income from the parking fees will ensure the local authority can maintain the quality of their green spaces.
Bin collections in Sheffield could come to a standstill in the end of the month as nearly 100 refuse workers go on strike. The union Unite claims it's being blocked from acting on behalf of their members in negotiations with Veolia, despite them representing 80% of workers. We have approached Veolia for a response. Now, still to come before 6:30, from this to this, and why tonight Millie is back where it all began.
Why more of us are swapping a tipple for tea, and why we might not be brewing our cuppers to their best.
And knock knock, summer's back. All the weather details coming up later on in the programme.
Well, with many schools across our region in their final week of summer term, it's normally a time when pupils enjoy a big outing outside of the classroom.
They certainly do, but a survey seen exclusively by ITV News has revealed that 1 in 3 parents now think that the cost of school trips is far too high, with claims that some are even relying on their children's pocket money or contributions from grandparents to cover the expenses. Pocket money must be quite a lot at the moment.
It must be, yes. Well, I wouldn't know. So should schools be scaling back on trips in a time when finances are tight? Nick Smith reports.
School is almost out for summer, and for this excited group of Year 6 pupils, that means it's time to take their seats on the coach as they get ready for an overnight trip to central London. What are you excited about seeing?
We're going to loads of different museums and places, and we get to tour around London.
What do you look forward to about school trips? Why are they so important?
Because we're not spending time inside of a classroom, and we're not keeping to the same sort of resume that we do every single day. We're doing something different.
But according to their teacher, 1 in 3 in this year group is missing out, their highest ever number of absentees, due to the costs having jumped by 60% in the last couple of years. Lisa is one parent who won't be waving her son off today, as she's decided it's just become too expensive.
It's £600 for 2 nights and I genuinely couldn't afford it. It feels awful because I thought, it's not fair Theo should have to miss out. But, he was upset because he's not going with his friends. And all of my children have been on school trips. It's just Theo now that hasn't been able to go on it because of the price.
It's sadly a trend that's all too familiar. A recent survey of parents found that more than a quarter now cannot afford to pay for their children to go on school trips. The average cost of a day trip has risen to £28 per pupil, while residentials cost an average of £430. The National Association of Head Teachers says that 2/3 of schools now have to fundraise or seek grants to pay for extracurricular activities like school trips. Pepe Delagio is General Secretary of the Association of School and College Leaders based in Doncaster and says the rising costs are due to a number of factors, leading more kids to miss out.
But when you consider that school trips involve the actual payment of getting into the venue, but perhaps more crucially, the transport to get to the venue, the cost of the fuel, the cost of the buses, all of that gets added on to the potential overall cost. And schools haven't had the funding to subsidise that cost or support young people to make sure that perhaps those poorer families can afford those opportunities that are available to them.
While school trips can be an important milestone in learning skills outside of a classroom setting, with rising costs squeezing budgets both at home and in schools too, waving the kids off on an adventure away with their classmates could sadly be something which is less and less common. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Yeah, that's a real shame because school trips are such good fun, aren't they? And they're really good ways of building confidence for kids.
Yeah, apart from when someone's sick on the school bus.
Don't like that. So that never happened on my school trips. Now, the ITV Evening News continues here at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Lucrezia Millarini.
Coming up, the King's speech renationalising rail, reforming planning laws and a promise to rebuild the economy. Labour's 40 new laws. Also, we'll have the latest on a double murder investigation in Sweden with 2 Brits feared dead. And the Paris Olympics edge closer. We catch up with Tom Daly and the rest of Team GB's divers. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Plenty more from calendar before that, though. And a volunteer aid worker from Sheffield who's supporting people in Ukraine has made a direct appeal for more supplies to help those in the war zone.
Michael Batoin has been in the country for 500 days and has recorded a series of videos to document his time here. Matt Price reports.
These video diaries act as a reminder of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Footage which captures the aftermath and the repair work in the country following fierce fighting here.
They go in and clear all the buildings of rubbish and personal possessions, and the metal is separated and recycled.
Operating the camera is Michael Batoin, a volunteer humanitarian aid worker based 25 miles from the Russian border.
I still remember one morning, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, woken by an explosion. Normally I'd count maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5. By the time it got to 10, I thought, well, something serious is happening. At 16, I was thinking, you know what? This has gotten beyond serious.
He spent some 500 days in the country documenting these moments to remind people that the war here is still raging on. It was in February 2022 that Vladimir Putin's army invaded Ukraine's eastern border. Since then, thousands of civilians have been killed. It caused Europe's largest refugee crisis since the Second World War.
When you come here, first of all, you come here to do a job. But the longer you stay, the more you feel like it becomes a purpose. You get to know people. These Ukrainians are just the same as us. They want the same things. They just want peaceful lives. They become friends, and then they become like family.
Michael is now renewing calls for support in the way of baby supplies, medical and hygiene products, food and winter clothes.
Well, the humanitarian aid is dropped off a cliff, basically. You know, beginning of this year, people said they were getting war weary, and we depend on donations 100% to make sure we can do all the work we need to do down in the war zone area. But, we've got to keep chipping away because so many people in those areas depend on us.
And the destruction is far greater than is generally reported.
The threat remains very real, and while it does, he remains dedicated to staying in Ukraine and helping those who still desperately need it. Matt Price, ITV News.
It's Michael Bertoin doing a great job out there. Now, you might be watching us this evening with a lovely cup of tea, and if so, well, you're not alone, and I'd love to have one right now.
We always like a cup of tea of an afternoon, don't we?
Do.
We always make a point. Well, in fact, we consume about 100 million cuppas every day in this country. No, not us. It's still favoured over coffee.
Yes. A new survey suggests that an increasing number of people would also choose tea over alcohol. I don't know what you think about that. It's a trend that's particularly high among younger generations. Kevin Ashford has been finding out more.
We've been drinking it for centuries. And new research suggests many of us, especially younger generations, are turning down alcohol in favour of a cup of tea. We asked people in Sheffield what they'd rather drink.
When I was younger, probably alcohol. Now that I'm a bit older, probably more tea, to be honest. I've got a bit boring.
I don't really drink that much alcohol, and tea, gets me through the day.
Tea over booze, yeah.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. I do. There's a lot of nice local breweries around here, especially, but can't beat a bit of tea.
A recent survey claims almost 80% of people questioned in Sheffield said they sometimes or often chose tea over alcohol, with 18 to 29-year-olds among the most likely to prefer a cuppa over booze. The industry body behind the study says young people seem to be increasingly choosing healthier options.
We've heard for quite some time now about this sober, curious movement amongst younger people. They're really, really concerned about their health and well-being, and they do talk to each other a lot about health and well-being, so they're sharing ideas. And really what's fantastic is if we ask them, that age group, why do you like tea? They say it's the taste.
It's estimated that in this country we drink around 100 million cups of tea every day. That compares to around 98 million cups of coffee. If you are a tea drinker, the question is, how do you go about making that perfect cuppa? Tim Bond is a tea expert. He recommends keeping your tea in an airtight container, use freshly boiled water, and follow the instructions on the tea packet for optimum brewing time.
Only 7% of people actually brew their tea for the appropriate amount of time, 3 to 4 minutes. More flavour equals more colour equals more health benefits. And once you've brewed it to the optimal time, which we've done here, pour it into your favourite mug or cup. If you wish to, add milk, just a splash, and enjoy it.
And that's something most of us will have done or will be doing at least once today. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
I'll certainly give it a try. Now, finally tonight, have we all got over the disappointment of Sunday night yet? Well, don't worry, because last night England's women footballers qualified for their European Championship.
Yes, we'll have to go through it all again next summer with the Lionesses. And at the heart of that team, we hope, will be one of our very own, Millie Bright from Killamarsh.
Well, Millie is back home this evening for a very special ceremony at her junior club Killamarsh Dynamos. And Chris Dawkes is there for us. Chris.
Yes, Ian, I certainly am. Fresh from helping England qualify for those European Championships next summer. Fresh off the plane as well. She got had 3 hours sleep since coming back from Sweden last night. Millie, thanks for talking to us. How are you feeling? Tired, I imagine.
Yeah, but when you've just qualified for the Euros, I've had an amazing morning at the university, and now I'm here opening officially my pitch with the Football Foundation. So yeah, a place where it all started for me. So it's very overwhelming actually, and to see the amount of people that have come out today and showing their support and their excitement with the Here to Play campaign is incredible.
Yeah, just a few minutes ago you unveiled that pitch, didn't you, named after you. What does that mean to you at this club specifically where it all began for you?
Yeah, honestly, it's where it all started, and to come back now, like I remember coming in, you know, my dad whacking balls in the air saying Eddie, Eddie, and you know, not really having a clue where it would lead me to, and to be studying now, inspiring the next generation of girls and boys. I think it's important for them to see this visibly and have that opportunity and know that you know, the village cares about them and the football community cares, and we're trying to do everything that we possibly can to make sure everyone has equal opportunities, but also have the facilities to thrive in and to feel good in order to progress and dream big and be successful.
We've got a couple of those youngsters here. We've got Esme and Ronnie. Esme, what does this woman next to you mean to you?
She's so inspiring because I play in a position. I just look up to her, hoping that I'll be like her when I'm older.
Fingers crossed. Ronnie, what about you? What's it like to be in the presence of greatness here? You're lost for words, aren't you, Ronnie?
Yeah.
She's that inspiring, isn't she? I mean, Millie, let's come back to you. Last night you qualified for the European Championships.
Yeah.
You won it already once. After disappointment of the weekend, can you go one better than the men next summer? Let's hope. We don't want that disappointment again.
Listen, we don't compete against the men. We're one nation, we're one team. We're so proud of the boys and what they've achieved, and to have a nation where men and women have both reached finals on the bounce is incredible. And yeah, I think the women's team are very proud of what they've achieved. Gareth and the boys have done an amazing job and inspired the nation yet again. I think that's what it's all about. Yes, they fell short, but we know they'll bounce back, and yeah, we've qualified now, so we have some time to prepare, and hopefully we can be successful next year.
Millie, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, thanks for joining us. Well, the future certainly looks bright here, Killamarsh Dynamos. Thanks to Millie.
It does indeed. Chris Dawkes in Killamarsh, thank you very much.
And the weather now from Joe Blythe.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. Temperatures are warming up over the next few days, peaking for our part of the world on Friday. It'll be warming up and generally settled. However, there will be some showery rain to come as we approach the end of the week, with warm, sunny spells in the mix. Outweighting in the wings to the west, this front that will increase cloud amounts through tonight for our part of the world and perhaps bring some early patchy rain tomorrow. Not really affecting us too much, but by tomorrow night it will push some rain through before a largely settled end to the week. An infill of cloud for a time this evening and overnight for most of us. Largely dry conditions, winds are falling light, and quite a warm night compared to last night when it dipped to low single figures, but 14 or 15 Celsius, a boost of warm air across Yorkshire tonight, and light winds with more cloud for all of us as we approach dawn. On to tomorrow, the sun is up just before 5 and sets at 9:25 tomorrow evening. Perhaps a cloudy start for North and West Yorkshire tomorrow morning, with patchy showery rain around as well. But skies will brighten for all of us through the early part of the day. And into the afternoon, lots of dry weather, warm sunshine on offer, fairly light breezes around, and temperatures perhaps peaking at around 24 or 25 Celsius tomorrow, with high UV levels across the region. During tomorrow night, cloud will build from the west and patchy showery rain will move through. But as we approach Friday, most places will become largely dry. And for Friday itself and into the weekend, for our part of the world, lots of dry weather to come with some sunshine, and temperatures warmest probably on Friday before beginning to tail off through the course of the weekend. So 25 on Saturday, down to 21, a seasonal average on Sunday. Cooler for all of us during next week. Here's the pollen.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Bit of a late burst in the pollen season over the next few days or so. Levels will be climbing. The warmer weather, plenty of sunshine means it'll be high. Thursday and Friday, down to moderate on Saturday.
Summer's arrived then, hasn't it?
That's brilliant, isn't it?
This is it. This
Great.
is our summer.
Good. That's all from us. Time now to join Lucrezia in London. From us all, good night.
Good night.